welcome to all of you from Inspiring Indian Women and myself, Darshini Joshi. The journey on social media is a very strong one, and there is a lot that happens in social media which affects our life. Sometimes personally, sometimes emotionally, sometimes your family as a whole. And today, to deal with all those questions that you might have, we have someone from outside of the ocean, my motherland, our motherland for all of you watching, India. The lady that we have with us today is extremely prolific in the work that she's done. Her name is Nandini Menon, and I haven't had the opportunity to meet her, but reading about her, I find her career chart extremely impressive. And I think that she would be a great guide to everyone that has suffered any kind of cyber abuse. In school here in the UK, it's a compulsory module where parents talk to their children, but they also encourage the school to educate children to be empathetic. But in the adult world of people of our age, it seems to be sometimes that people are quite judgmental and they say something quite ad hoc and don't realize the impact that it has on someone long term. As we talk with Nandaniji, we will probably discover from various slides, a presentation, a chat, how to deal with such traumatic effects. In terms of Nandiniji's background, Nandaniji is from India. She has done her education from the VN Sukhe Guruji English Medium School, and then she's done her further education from Junior College of Ramnivas Ruia, and she's graduated from the University of Mumbai. She's a lawyer. The word lawyer is a very important element in my life. My husband's a lawyer, so we understand the journey a lawyer takes to reach to a position where they're able to advise you. Studying from the Government Law College, she has helped a lot of people around the world. She had made up her mind from the age of 5 that she wanted to be a lawyer. That's an amazing journey. So before I go into her further life, I'm going to ask her, Nandaniji, first of all, a massive welcome to you. We are blessed to have you talking to us, and all the Inspiring Indian Women will be privileged to listen to our chat, if not now, at any point of time on social media. So welcome, Nandini.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. It's a pleasure. Pleasure also to share knowledge, which is the basis of so many years of experience, both as a lawyer and as a human being. And I hope I can contribute something, and I'm sure I'll contribute something worthwhile. And at the same time, I'll also be taking away something from this discussion.
So Nandaniji, how, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and, my husband's a lawyer, but she's confused. How did you make such a massive decision at the age of 5 that you wanted to get into law?
Maybe I was argumentative right from the beginning as a child. I was an only child, so when you had parents who are very understanding but disciplinarians, you needed to argue and justify why you wanted a particular thing or why you did not want it. Maybe the seed of becoming a lawyer was sown in there. And I had, my mother had a first cousin who was a lawyer. So he used to, whenever he came down to Mumbai, he used to entertain us with, tales of what used to happen in courts. And he had a very charismatic personality. So maybe that's what drew me to emulate him, perhaps. And I hope wherever he is, I'm doing him proud.
I'm sure you're doing him grandly proud. So moving to this topic that we've chosen for today, cyber abuse. Abuse is a very strong word. In your sort of resume or your wonderful experience over the years, you have conducted a lot of workshops, seminars on various areas that sort of talk about education, sexual harassment, and benefits and disadvantages of this world driven by technology, including cyber stalking and cyberbullying.
That's right.
Personally, I have suffered it, and it was quite traumatic. Emotionally, I had to make a decision whether I can stand up to this person or actually walk away. And sometimes, you don't even meet your accuser in most cases. So
That's right.
explain to me, what is it that is allowed and what is it that crosses the line?
The whole thing here is a woman is always looked upon as an easy and available object, if you know what I mean. Just excuse me. Hello. Who?
So while Nandaniji is just
Just hold
taking this,
on a minute, please. Ma'am.
I will, I
Uh,
will, I will ask a lot of the people that have joined here, because she's going to have a lot of people calling to talk about the issue, and then she'll probably talk to you about it. So, ladies and gentlemen that have joined this Zoom chat, have any of you had any kind of cyber abuse? Has it been difficult? I have people here called Gautami, Deepika, Gauri, Monica. Who else do we have on the view? We have Grishma, we have Mohanji, we have Sharmila, Bhanu, Anita Castelli. So if any of you, there's about 20 of us here. So if there's anyone that have had issues that affect them in terms of cyber abuse, please feel free to put it on the chat, or at least talk to Nandaniji, because we want to have a kind of an interactive session where we discuss matters that actually affect your day to day. Are most of you based in the UK? Can we see any faces at all?
You'll have to just excuse me for a couple of minutes while I go on mute. There's a family emergency because somebody's been diagnosed with COVID-19 and needs to be hospitalized. So in Mumbai, beds are at a very short shrift. So I'll keep myself on mute, but in the meantime, you can please continue. I'm extremely sorry about this, but this is
That's
a
okay.
family emergency.
That's okay.
I'll just
So,
go on mute for some time.
okay. So as you were discussing with cyber abuse, there comes a big um, element of emotional trauma. And one of the things that I learned from my research on cyber abuse, that there are certain levels of cyber abuse that take place. Some elements of cyber abuse that take place could be just a simple um, Facebook message on Messenger, which says, oh, you know what? Actually, you're doing something for personal gain, personal benefit, you're a money grabbing person, and you have no right to do that. So, my advice, having spoken to barristers and lawyers about this topic in my research and personal experience, I've been advised that first of all, anyone that abuses you on any kind of social media, the first port of call for you would be to say, I am not going to indulge in conversation. The moment you start indulging in tittle tattle with a person that is stalking you or abusing you, there is an element of control that you are letting go from yourself and giving to that opposite person. The idea behind the legal perspective of it is that unless and until, and this is from a UK barrister that I am giving you this advice, if there is no loss of money, there's no loss of faith, there's no loss of business, there's no personal loss to you, there is no point in suing this person. There's no point in wasting your money in a legal battle. Because clearly, the moment you start going the legal way in terms of suing that person, then there comes a cost element. And the cost element is how long is a piece of string. So, what I'm trying to share with you via this talk is that you've got to decide how much of what this person says is relevant to your life, whether you want this person to have any impact. So, the best possible advice that have been given by solicitors and barristers, if you want to pursue the legal route, is first of all, do not indulge in conversation on any form of social media, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's Facebook Messenger, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter, whether it's any other social media channel. So that's your first port of advice that is given by experts. The second thing is that you've got to understand that people that stalk other people, they have issues. Now, I don't know if any of you agree with me here or not, but there could be issues of jealousy, there could be general misunderstanding, there could be someone else filling this person's mind with pointless conversation, which taints their view of you. And in my case, or in most cases, you don't actually even meet the victim, or you don't even meet the accuser. This conversation is done in cyberspace. If anybody has an input here, feel free to share their experience. I would love for people that are listening on this conversation to understand if you've had the courage to fight. Now, Nandaniji, as you were saying.
Sorry for the break, but sometimes family is also important.
Absolutely.
The problem from what I understand, the person who is a victim of cyber abuse really does not understand he or she is being victimized. The whole thing is, if you're a lady, the issue is you are looked upon as a sex object. You are looked upon as something malleable. Your every attitude, your body language, your dressing style, your lifestyle, everything comes under scrutiny. And we have, thanks to the explosion of internet, cyberspace, electronic media, you have you will input something, you have a keyboard, you think it is your right to comment on somebody, you have a keyboard, you think you can express your opinion on everything, despite the fact that your opinion may be infringing on somebody's personal space, it may be defaming somebody, it may be causing problems to somebody else. Litigation, like you mentioned, is expensive. It is time consuming, especially in India, with due respect to the judiciary here. So therefore, people do hesitate to get involved. Not only the person who's a victim, but the persons who are the victim may also not like to get involved in a very active manner.
Okay.
They would prefer that the whole issue is sorted out at the basic level, because like they say in Hindi, log kya kahenge, whatever, it's only a few people who know about this abuse, so let us restrict it to a few people. You go public, you go into media, you go in for litigation, the whole thing is going to explode on your face. The attitude is bury it. People do not realize perhaps, or they prefer to brush aside the fact that there is a lot of psychological damage being done to the victim. There is a lot of anger which is inbuilt in the victim because the victim is helpless if there is no outlet or no remedy which is available to the victim. We also fail to understand perhaps that there is a lot of sexualization of women which occurs in media, whether it's the print media, the electronic media, in cyberspace. Now, maybe just start sharing the slide, please, which I had, the PowerPoints which I had prepared. I can do it from my end or you can do it from yours. I would prefer to have it done from your side. Just the PowerPoint slide, please.
Yeah, please go ahead and share.
Hi, ma'am. Can you please enable the sharing the screen? You've disabled it.
Okay, I'll just do that.
Yeah.
Is that Gauri?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there you go.
Can we just go to slide 2, please? Now here comes my first pop quiz. So whoever can answer, who want to answer, who would like to be a part of the pop quiz, could you please raise your hands? What is the first thing which comes to mind when you read these names? Hrithik Roshan, Kangana Ranaut, Swara Bhaskar, Taapsee Pannu. These are all people in the film industry. Priyanka Chaturvedi, Smriti Irani, Brigitte Macron, Camilla the Duchess of Cornwall, Meghan the Duchess of Sussex, Piers Morgan, and Sonia Gandhi. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you read these names?
Kangana Ranaut recently.
Beg your pardon, ma'am?
They're
Kangana. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anita? Yes?
They're celebrities,
Yeah. There's
people in the limelight.
Yeah.
Beyond the fact that they're celebrities, what else?
They speak their mind.
Apart from that.
Apart from that, okay.
Yeah.
They've been victim of cyber abuse.
Yes, they have been victims of cyber abuse and cyber trolling and cyberbullying. Now, for example, if you take Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, I'm starting with the UK because looking at the UK-based audience. When she got it, when it came into public domain that she was in a relationship with the Prince of Wales. Even today, if you follow any of the royal family feeds, or if you follow any news item, you read any newspaper article, you read an internet article, the amount of hate and abuse that this lady, the Duchess of Cornwall, gets from social media is amazing. If I was in her place, I would have gone crawling back into a hole. She's been accused of being an adulteress. She's been accused of being a murderess. She's been accused of, she's been told that she's been labeled all sorts of names. Her physical features are made fun of. Her dressing style is made fun of. She's always compared to the Princess of Wales, the late Princess of Wales. The hate that she receives is amazing. If you are on Twitter or if you're on any social media, the very publicized fight between Piers Morgan, who was a journalist, and Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, is sickening to say the least. Absolutely sickening. Where the politicians from India are concerned, their personal lives are dug into, their backgrounds are dug into, where they come from, what they do as youngsters, everything is dug into, and everything is fair. Kangana to a public spat with Hrithik Roshan on the basis of what is allegedly a relationship between the two of them, and she's been the target of trolling. Of course, she also trolls other people. So for her, it is she gets as good as she gives the other people. These are all people who you think being celebrities would never fall into a public domain where they would be abused or cyber stalked or cyber bullied, but no, they are. Anybody with a social media account, anybody on having a Twitter handle, if you search for these names, you would understand what I'm speaking about. This is because being a public platform, I would not want to name things. I would not like to go into explicit detail for fear that I may also be pulled up for some legal action somewhere or the other. So let's go down to the next slide, please. Now tell me one more thing. What is common to all these books? In the context of cyberbullying, in the context of women, and in the context of the discussions today, what is common to all these books?
They're controversial.
Can you be a little louder, please?
They're controversial.
Yes, in addition to that.
They cross the boundaries of the norm. So books like Lolita, Ulysses, Lady Chatterley's Lover, The Kite Runner, I mean, I've actually even seen that here in the UK. They discuss taboo issues.
Yes, they did. Surprisingly, for several years, these were the books which were banned. And later on, the bans were lifted. The authorities had restricted the sale and publication of these books on the ground that these books were purveyors of obscenity, were purveyors of sexual, sexually deviant behavior, so to speak. And today, when you read these books, you wonder what were these people thinking of when these books were banned. What I want to try and say here is the concepts of morality, the concepts of obscenity, the concepts of what is right, what is wrong, keeps changing over a period of time. There is nothing flexible, there is nothing rigid about this. While discussing, for example, the issues of cyberbullying or bullying of women on the World Wide Web, concepts change, moralities change, ideas change. The way even women look at such things really change. Now I keep looking, I keep going back to my Facebook account to check several things because I'm interested in, generally what goes on in the community and what goes on in society. I'm amazed at the type of personal memories and personal videos that people really put out in public domain and for the public to view. And then I wonder, if people react on this and pass comments on this, does a person who has posted, do the people who have posted the video, do they become victims? Or do they actually, are they inviting it or are they calling for this? What would you all see? I'm posting very private moments in a public space, which is accessible by everybody or accessible by the general public. So am I inviting trouble or am I not inviting trouble? Because it's my video, my property, you have come into my space and you have decided to view it. How would you look at this?
So if no one else is willing to answer, I would say that one of the things that I learned while I was working at the NHS, when we do social media vetting, we look at a person's entire social media profile to decide whether they're appropriate or not to get a certain job. So when I took, the message I took away from that was, I told my 13-year-old and 18-year-old that the moment you start putting stuff out there on your personal page, you have to be ready to be open to personal criticism and praise at the same time. So it's a double-edged sword in my view.
Yes, it is. People also don't realize that nowadays, like you said, the NHS does look at people's social media accounts and social media background before they decide to engage and hire somebody. This was, of course, started in what we call as the non-Indian countries, but this is also started in India now. So the whole advice that we would give people is, when you have a social media account, please be very, very, very careful, of whom you are giving access to, who accounts of what posting, and how do you react to comments posted by others and comments which are there on your comments which have been posted in response to content that you have posted. Because sometimes your employment chances can get completely minimized merely because social media accounts are inappropriate, fit the profile that the company is looking for. Can we just go to the next slide, please? Now, going further on the topic of women and cyberbullying, women and sexualizing of women, have you actually reflected on these movies? I mean, I've just taken a mixture of Hindi movies and English because my viewing is limited to this. And if you see the names, these are movies which are not in the recent past. But if you see movies like any James Bond movie, Goldfinger, you see Notebook, you see Bridget Jones's Diary, we watch the movie as for entertainment. We watch it because we want to be entertained. but somewhere at some place we fail to understand that the whole idea of stalking, cyber stalking, sexualizing a woman, harassing a woman sexually has actually been glorified in these movies. Obscenity, obscene jokes against women are all powerful laws. Therefore, when you take youngsters or when there is movies, etc., you need to make them understand what is good passed by the censor board need not necessarily. Is there any query on this, or should we go ahead? Would somebody like to raise a query?
Anyone?
I can
Adarsh?
raising a hand there. Yes.
Hi.
Adarsh
So,
has a comment.
yeah, I had a comment, and that was in relation to this, all these Bollywood movies which you mentioned about. So, I mean,
That's right.
it's been since a long time that we know that there are certain movies and there are certain sections in Bollywood which have actually objectified women, and which somewhere down the line has had contributed, to this cyberbullying at some point of time. So, what do you feel that what exactly is lacking in the Indian Penal Code? I mean, do you think that it's a high time that we need to set an organization which can specifically look into these aspects, because these movies have a very, these Bollywood stars have a big social base, and it's important that they need to reflect upon, these important measures and try to make sure that, such things do not happen in the near future. Specifically, I'm talking about Bollywood. So, so what's your view on this?
I would think so that the Bollywood, and when I talk about Bollywood, I'm talking about the entire Indian film industry. They need to take a pause, they need to take a breather, and they need to understand where they want to go forward with this. Do they want to completely keep sexualizing content? Do they want to keep creating obscene content and fall back on the ready-made excuse that they normally have, saying that this is what the audience wants? If you don't like what we are making, if what we are producing, what we are putting up on screen, you have a choice not to watch it. The problem is with the explosion of so many web, OTT platforms. What is being watched? Kids, the age of the children who are watching this content is something that even parents don't have control over. So the responsibility somewhere, yes, does lie with Bollywood, does lie with the Indian film industry. And to an extent, it also lies with the Indian censor board. Unfortunately, what happens is when the Indian censor board decides to get a little strict, then you have people taking recourse to courts of law, or they go into social media, social opinion to say, use social media to say, look, what is this? We are just showing you a reflection of what actually goes on in real life. So we are reflecting, the defense given by Bollywood is we are reflecting what is prevalent in society today. So why are you holding us responsible? According to me, that's not always true. A lot of what happens in society is also taken from what's shown in films.
And do you feel that the sections in Indian Penal Code are sufficient enough to actually take into account or accommodate all these parameters and make sure that these, platforms or these sections in OTT, which are, like objectifying women, they can be taken down? Do you feel that, or do you think that it's a high time that we need to include some sections in the IPC or in the CRPC? What's your view?
According to me, the sections which are already there are enough because they are broad-based enough. This is my personal opinion. It's broad-based enough. The only problem is implementing it and effectively implementing it. And again, I say this with due respect to all the courts. The problem also is the time which is taken for any litigation to complete in India. So people lose interest somewhere. It becomes just the topic du jour, so to speak, and then it's just pushed into the background. According to me, it's enough. The implementation and the effective implementation is what is really important. I think we see a couple of my colleagues here. So if they would like to bring in their own comments, you're welcome. I think
just can I say something?
Anita, is that you?
Yes, that's me. I only
Yeah.
want to bring
Just
forward the thing that today the Bollywood is also changing. I saw a movie called Tappad, and I was very, very impressed with it. It shows the other side of it. It is something that even at one point of time, when I first saw the movie, the beginning of the movie where the husband slaps the lady, and she's very upset about it, and she wants to take a divorce only because of that. My first reaction when I started seeing the movie was it was only a slap. And then I realized that no, it's just not only a slap. So I personally feel that today Bollywood is changing. It is bringing out the other part of it also. It is not just, showing women in bad light or, you know, whatever. But I think they are changing. And even the movie called Dar, which you have put out here, it does show stalking, etc., and the fright a woman goes through. But at the end of the movie, it shows that you don't get away with these kind of things. That's my personal opinion. And yes, you're right, Nandini, that the law is already in place. It's just that we are not able to use it the way it should be used.
Yeah, I would like to just maybe have a difference of opinion with Anita, because Dar, at the end of the movie, if I'm not mistaken, because this is a movie which was pretty long back in time, at the end of the movie, I think Shah Rukh Khan is killed off. Is that the sort of is that the sort of message that we would like to give off, saying at the end of the day, if you're cyber stalked, if you're harassed, if you're stalked, the answer to all this is just you kill the person who's done this to you, or get somebody to do the killing for you. I don't think really that's the answer, because that again gives a wrong message to people.
Yeah, you are right. You are right, Nandini, when we are talking about that, the end is that he gets killed. But the fact is that they are trying to portray that if you do things like this, you don't get away with it. That's my personal opinion.
Yes. Now progressing to the next slide, because is there any questions to be asked on the censorship, the media, etc.? Then before I go on to the next slide, we can have a little discussion and then progress further. Okay, progressing further, for the lawyer friends who are here, what is a Prajwala letter which the Supreme Court of India converted into a suo motu criminal writ petition? Can someone from India enlighten everybody on this? Can we go to the next slide, please? Because there I'll give you the explanation of what the Prajwala letter actually was all about. Prajwala is an NGO which is based in Andhra Pradesh. They came up across these disturbing videos of gang rape as well as rape of a woman, which was videotaped and released on social media, especially WhatsApp, and circulated. A letter was written which went into public domain. It was sent to the Chief Justice of India. This Prajwala letter was converted into a PIL, a suo motu writ petition, and the Supreme Court has taken up the matter of violence against women, especially rape and gang rape, being circulated on social media. And it has tried to now lay down guidelines as to what should be the role of the police, what should be the role of the investigating agencies, how an investigation should be conducted, etc., where use of social media like WhatsApp is being used by various people either for money or for pleasure or for revenge porn, name it, where videos like this, crime sex videos, are being posted in public domain. Would somebody want to say something on this before we go further? All right, can we please go to the next video? Before we proceed further, I would like to just acknowledge that the resources which have been used for the PowerPoints are just not my own. It has been an amalgamation of various resources and material. which have been used on the internet. Thank you. Can we go further, please? Now, what is the meaning of gender-based violence? Gender-based violence is violence that is directed against a woman, A, because she is a woman, or B, because it affects the woman disproportionately. Now, gender-based violence against a woman is not just limited to sexual violence. It includes physical, sexual, emotional, or psychological harm. It is committed both offline and online. Now, information and technology is used to facilitate or extend sexual abuse and gender-based harm to victims, including technology-enabled sexual assault, image-based sexual abuse, cyber stalking, criminal harassment, online sexual harassment, gender-based harassment, and hate speech. Can we go ahead, please? According to information which is available in public domain, more than 41% of the women who experience online abuse feared for their personal safety because of this abuse and harassment. Women have received intimidating messages, they have received threats of violence, they have received sexually explicit text messages, emails, images, videos via dating, social media, and other online platforms, as well as in chat rooms and instant messaging services. Cyber stalking and cyber harassment are gender-based cyber crimes. Women and girls are more likely to experience this form of harassment than men and boys. Threats of sexual and physical violence, along with sexist, misogynist, discriminatory, and prejudicial comments, have been communicated to women and girls via the ICT, creating a hostile environment for them online. In addition to gender-based harassment, women are recipients of highly sexual comments and visual pornography that dehumanizes, including cyber flashing. Now, cyber flashing is the internet equivalent of generally women's rights organizations, women's rights activists, feminists, and feminist organizations around the world have been subjected to cyber harassment, cyber stalking, sexual violence, and harassment merely because of the work they do, because of the views they hold, because of their political views, maybe because of their outspokenness. So if you're outspoken, you're on a social media account, you get trolled. If you're outspoken, even if you don't have a social media account, you are still trolled in public domain. Most of the time, the trolling is of an inhuman, debased, vulgar, abrasive nature. Absolutely skin crawling, so to speak. Can we have the next slide, please? Now, when I spoke about political, lady political figures, lady political leaders, or even actresses, simply being a female public figure can result in experiences of threats of physical and sexual violence and misogynist comments. So you look at what is said to Tapsi Pannu, you look at what is said to Swara Bhaskar, you look at what is said to Smriti Irani, look at what is said to Priyanka Chaturvedi, amongst others on social media platform, and the percentage of male public figures who receive such comments versus the female public figures, the male figures are comparatively very less. Can we progress to the next slide, please? Women have also been the predominant target of image-based sexual abuse. There is revenge porn. Now, what is revenge porn? Revenge porn is a form of cyber harassment which involves non-sensual creation, distribution, and threat to distribute nude or sexual images to cause the victim distress, humiliation, and harm in some way. All right, you may think that revenge porn is just limited to when a relationship goes bad. No, it's not limited to only when a relationship goes bad. It also goes, it also can include when what do you call it, a workplace relationship goes bad, any other relationship goes bad. Revenge porn can be used to name and shame the victim. Revenge porn is not restricted to the perpetrator taking revenge on the victim, but includes distribution of images to obtain monetary benefits or boost social status, or to use the images as a means to exert further control over their partners or ex-partners. When I started learning about cyberbullying and sexual abuse of women and abuse of women on cyber media, I really didn't first understand what is the meaning of terms like upskirting, downblousing. Now, upskirting means when you shoot a woman from the ground level and try to capture her innerwear. Basically, you shoot up her skirt, which is what is called as upskirting. Downblousing is when you place the camera at a level where you get pictures or video films of the cleavage of a woman. In public or private places, we have had several instances in India of of stealth cameras, of filming of women in the changing rooms, in the trial rooms, in several places. There is non-sexual recording of women images. All these constitute sexual abuse. Sexting, that is sexual texting, inviting ladies and girls to indulge in sexting and then distributing these sex to others without consent also constitutes cyber sexual abuse of women. So therefore, if you are in a relationship, you send sexually worded messages to your partner, you expect these messages to remain confidential and just between the two of you. But what happens is, to show the dominance, to show the partner's dominance, to show how the partner can get you to expose yourself, expose your inner thoughts and feelings. This is then distributed amongst his peers, his friends, and even to a larger social and media circle, to the degradation of the lady concerned. Sexting is because people think that a private moment between two consenting individuals should remain private. Unfortunately, in several cases, this is not so. So whenever you are exchanging messages on social media, something that can be copy pasted, something that can be forwarded, that something that can be saved, when you are sending messages, images across, please be careful, because you are inviting yourself into having some sort of trouble or the other later on. Can we go to the next text, please? Now, what is image-based sexual abuse or IBSA? This happens in the form of peer-to-peer harassment, where the perpetrator is a friend or acquaintance of the person targeted. In the context of a relationship, it is from a partner or from a former partner. Can we progress further, please? Now, from a UN report on cyber crimes against women, approximately 35% of the women in the world are victims to some kind of violence. 60% of the women across the world, and that's a huge number, have faced some kind of a threat on social media. About 20% of the victims who are women of cybercrime are forced to shut down their online accounts. Survey was conducted among more than 14,000 women across 22 countries, including India, in the age group of 15 to 25 years. So it's 60% of women across the globe have faced some sort of a social threat or some sort of a threat or the other on social media. 39% women have faced online violence on Facebook, 23% on Instagram, 14% through WhatsApp, 10% through Snapchat, 9% on Twitter, and 6% on TikTok. Can we go further, please? According to a statement attributed to an officer of the Center for Development for Advanced Computing, there was a significant increase in cyber crimes against women during the lockdown. Can we proceed further? Let's take, because this is statistics and data, let's go on to the next slide, please. Now, when we are looking at cyber world and what are the benefits and the pros and cons for women, there are also so many pros. Now, computers, electronic devices, internet and digital devices have come to play a major role in all our lives today. We use the internet, we use the internet services, we use the World Wide Web for tax filing, sourcing research materials, for bankings, for investments, for booking airline, railway tickets, holiday tours, hotel rooms, shopping, meeting up with friends, socializing, networking, and now working from home. We use citizen services, including payment of taxes, conducting online classes. Internet and technology has made life easier for everyone. More particularly, it's made it easier for women. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Now, when you are in the cyber world, what you need to really understand is people need not reveal their own identity, but can hide behind fake profiles and fake identities. So if I represent myself as, say, Deepika Padukone, you think you're chatting with Deepika Padukone, you are not. Unless it's a verified account, you may be speaking to a parody account, you may be chatting with a fake account, you may be chatting with a stalker, you may be chatting with an identity thief. So please be very, very careful who you connect to on social media, who you admit as friends on your social media accounts. Now, several of us make this mistake, when we are at the workplace or even in private life, we share our sign-in with everyone. We tend to get on digital or electronic devices. Please try and avoid doing so. The next thing to ensure is please do not use passwords and sign-in IDs which are identifiable, like your birthday, the birth date of your spouse, combination of your names, the names of your children along with your wedding anniversary, because these are things which are easily hackable. Be careful when you click on emails to reply, because you get a lot of phishing emails which seem like they've actually originated from the genuine source. You do not bother to check who the email sender is. You may be leaving your emails and your computer susceptible to hacking. Somebody may be stealing your background because you clicked reply on a wrong mail. Can we go further, please? Now, can we pause here, and do I need to take any questions, or does anybody have any queries?
I need to talk about certain kind of cyberbullying, which is women abusing another woman, or I would say cyberbullying, and
Yes.
things like, what should I say? The whatever the woman does, she accuses the other woman of doing that, and keeps on writing on her timeline that so and so has been arrested. Police is in her house. There's a court case going on, and she's a fraudster. She's a this that. What do you think should one do when a woman cyberbullies another woman? I know I'm deviating from the topic, but this is a very big.
Actually, it's part of the topic, but yes, cyberbullying women is also something which is there and which is increasing in numbers. What you need to do is, one, you need to block that person's access to your account. You need to perhaps change the settings on your social media accounts, and you also need to lodge a formal complaint with the police. The cyber crime section of the police station is where you need to lodge a complaint, so that in India, or whether you're in India or whether you're in the UK, this can be taken further, and the law can attend to this.
In UK, it's so difficult that the police just issues a verbal warning, another verbal warning, and nothing more than that. Also, this particular person has been bullying so many women, especially victims of domestic abuse. Their husbands are being bullied, on social media, and their kind of justice is to shame the husband. So they are bullying, and there have been cases when the husbands have been very suicidal, and these kind of things. How does one prevent it? And also, there are many women who support such women, that good, well, you did well, and well done to bringing this man into limelight. He will never do this again. Shame him on social media. It's been rampant in UK. It's been going on and on since last 4 years. The kind of social justice for domestic abuse victim is shame the husband. Now, what do you want to say for that?
It's not just something that is restricted to the UK. A whole lot of this also goes on various social media timelines in India too. I have been reading, like I said, for work purposes, I'm on Twitter, I'm on several social media accounts. The only thing is if the police, even in India, it's not just UK, even in India, when you go to lodge a complaint, a cyber complaint is not taken seriously. It's like, okay, it's just a jhagra that's going on. The first thing you're told is, why don't you ignore? Why don't you block? Why don't you do something else? Why don't you, like delete all your social media accounts and create new social media accounts? The whole thing is, why should I? I am the one who's being bullied. I am the one who's facing harassment. I'm the one who's facing hostility on social media. If the police not in India, we get a step or we can move the High Court asking for directions to the police to lodge the complaint and take the entire thing seriously. I'm sure because our system of law is based on UK, there might be similar remedies which are available even in the UK.
Yeah, but
Police,
the problem is the fees is too high, and one ends up spending a lot of money just for a legal notice in UK. So it is better, like, just to ignore and make try and feel that the person doesn't exist in our lives, or in the person and others, the victim's life. That is the only source of strength which one gets. Otherwise, it's like spending lots of money for sending a legal notice or going to court.
yes,
in UK.
issue
So
of
difficult.
spending money for legal services is not just limited to the UK. Legal remedies are equally expensive and time consuming in India. The only thing that is left is the cyberbullying is, look, ultimately at the end of the day, cyberbullying is going to play on your mental health. Reluctantly, extremely reluctantly, the advice I would give is, please delete all your social media accounts. First, try and secure your account so you block people who you think are cyberbullies. One, if that does not succeed because people have a way of bypassing controls, which I have learned to my great regret, you just delete your account. That's the only thing. Because things can be very sensitive, people can be very mean, people can pass extremely rude and personal comments without actually knowing what the background is. So you cease to have a media presence, you cease to have a social media presence because you do not want to get into the nitty-gritties of legal action. I thought this was only, the expenses and the delay in legal action was only limited to India. I'm happy to know that it's also there in other countries, not just in India. Because we keep cursing the Indian legal system, but good to know the thing exists. The same problems and the same delays exist everywhere else.
Mm. So even if you delete your account, the bullying doesn't stop there, it just goes on and on. As long as your presence is there, you are growing, people are getting connected to you. The other, the bully doesn't want that, for the bully, this person should not exist in any social circle, which is very hard to do. And
that's correct, but then there's actually no remedy for this unless and until you decide to take strict legal action, maybe spend a little bit of money, a little bit of your time and resources, and then take one bully head on. All right. I mean, I have not gone through this, so it's very easy sitting in my lawyer's chair and offering this advice. But you take one bully head on, you decide to take them through the legal process, and I'm sure most others will fall in line. Because please understand one thing, there's always a lead bully, a person who's the actual bully. Everybody else just piles on to that person's strength. This is called what is called as it's like bullying somebody in a crowd, which we'll come to a little later.
Yeah.
Because there are different types of bullying. So if you do not want to exit from social media accounts, you will have to learn to turn a blind eye, deaf ear, You need to understand what feeds you need to read and what feeds you need to ignore. But that's a very, very tough call. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you might just feel, it's not worth your mental health to get into all this.
Believe me, we've just become, some of us have become immune, it doesn't matter at all because such people don't exist. So Adarsh, you have a question. Please go ahead.
Yes, I do. So my question was that in relation to if we look at the Indian, from the Indian context, so as a lawyer, do you feel that there has been enough in terms of, like, for example, say higher courts issue all these writs like, mandamus or habeas corpus. So if you essentially file a complaint in the lower court, and has there been a specific case where the higher court or Supreme Court has actually issued some of the writs to the lower court and has taken this particular cyberbullying seriously compared to, say, other crimes? So what's the data on that, like the implementation part of it?
The Supreme Court is now seized of itself is the Prajwal matter, the Prajwal letter that I told you about.
Yeah.
Hopefully the government, in fact, the Supreme Court has taken it so seriously that if you see the orders which have been passed at several points of time, states which have not been serious about submitting their reports and timelines to the Supreme Court have been hauled up and they have been penalized. There have been costs have been imposed on them. But see, ultimately, at the end of the day, there's only so much supervising and monitoring that a court can do. Yeah. Because you are looking at the apex court to micromanage everything. That's just not possible. You're again looking at the high court to micromanage everything. That's not possible. And according to me, when I'm now hearing that even the police force in the UK is very reluctant to register a formal complaint, the mindset has to change. That this is not what we call in India as chedkhani. This is not just teasing. This is not something which is harmless. This is something that can become very serious over a period of time. The mindset at the lower level has to change, and that is taking some time.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to cyberbullying of children, like, say, girls which are under the age of 18, is this provision covered under POCSO Act? Because if I believe it is covered under POCSO Act, right?
It is. There are several provisions under POCSO which cover cyberbullying or anything where sexual abuse of children is concerned. Yes. But again, like I said, speaking from my personal experience as a lawyer, it was of course not cyberbullying, but there was an instance where under POCSO, the person who receives the first information about a child being sexually abused, that person has to report the crime to the police. Otherwise, the person concerned who is the first recipient, can be hauled up under POCSO. So we had an instance in a school of a 8th or 9th standard student. Of course, I'm not going to reveal names. Suddenly, the class monitor, like the class prefect, told class teacher, ma'am, would you please look at so-and-so's arms very carefully. So the class teacher was a little surprised because the girl concerned was very quiet, was what we would call as non-consequential because she would blend into the woodwork, was an average student, etc. So on some pretext or the other, she did call the student near to speak to her. So what the class teacher discovered was there was a whole series of slash marks from the elbow to the wrist on both the wrists of the girl, on both hands of the girl concerned. So after a lot of inner counseling and after a lot of giving confidence to the child, the teacher came to know that this child was being sexually abused by her maternal aunt from about 5 years. The mother definitely was aware of the same. The grandmother was aware of the same, but this was swept under the carpet. So we called the parents in, and these are educated parents. We called the parents in. The father had a very high profile job. He, in fact, is in the IT sector of that particular company that he is working with. They refused to accept that anything wrong could have happened to their child. They tried to persuade the school to brush the matter under the carpet. They said, no, 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 the child must be under some mistaken impression. She very happily goes to this particular uncle's house. Whereas the child said, she'd been forced to go there. The child had given uh, a detailed description of how the abuse actually used to occur. Believe me, I was there when the parents were being counseled. It was not an easy task. The parents collaborated later with the uncle, because ultimately this is a matter of family pride and honor. And now they're seeking to brush the entire thing under the carpet. Luckily, they are before a tough magistrate, and the prosecution cannot be also swayed. So the prosecution is going further. But later on, after speaking to the parents, we came to know, as lawyers and as educators, where the teachers were concerned, that even the father was aware of this, and as part of his guilt suppression methods, whatever the daughter asked for, she was given. So if she wants a high-end phone, okay, she says, I want it in the morning, she gets it in the evening. So this was like buying silence from the child, so that the family name was not endangered or sullied in any manner whatsoever. In India, what we call as log kya kahenge, etc. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely, and that's interesting. That's very interesting, because I believe that, I was reading this research paper on the other day from Sage Journals, and it was talking about that because of COVID, these crimes have basically increased, because because of lockdowns, especially women are more susceptible to all these crimes, domestic violence crimes which are taking place. So yeah, thank you.
Yes, can we just go further, please? A mistake that all of us make, several of us make, is we post our phone numbers, email IDs, birth dates, addresses on a public platform. Please do not do so. While you're joining online groups and forums, please exercise caution if this is being hosted or created by persons unknown to you. Now, several of us make a mistake of real-time posting and updating of our travels, tours, holidays. Please do that after you come back home. And please be very careful of the content that you post, because again, you are leaving yourself open to comments from everybody. Please ensure that you are whatever electronic device you use, whether it's your laptop or whether it's your computer, you use only genuine software. Please keep updating the software regularly. Use your device systems. Every device has a built-in system. So please use those systems, activate the protocols to lessen any phishing or hacking. And the most important part is your workplace colleagues need not be your friends in real life or social media. You do not want to be friends with them. You can deal with them. Tell them politely in your own way that you are workplace colleagues and nothing more. But exercise discretion on whom you choose to add on your social media accounts. You can even refuse or reject requests. There is nothing to feel bad about it. Can we go further, please? Now, a lot of us have this, we have this thought process that if we delete content that we post on online, it is deleted forever. No, it is not. It's available online for people who know where to look for it and how to look for it. If you are using your own personal electronic devices, or even you're using a shared computer, a workplace computer, please delete your data or your search engine browser so that people do not get any access to your browsing history. When you're changing your devices, for example, please ensure that you delete all your content, you reset the device. Do not leave it to the shop salesperson or the person buying your device to reset your device or delete your content. Ensure the sharing button on your social media pages is not activated for all content, and switch off the comment section to avoid messages being posted on your timeline or for your being trolled on your timeline. These are some of the basic protocols that you can use. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, what are the type of cyber crimes? Actually, cyber crimes, to that extent are not gender specific. Only thing is it's weighed more against the women. You have cyber harassment, you have cyber stalking, you have cyber pornography, defamation, you have morphing, you have email spoofing, you have hacking, you have trolling, you have slut shaming, you have body shaming, you have publishing of obscene materials against women, you have cyber crowding, and you have virtual mobbing. Just some time back, we were talking about a group of people, getting together and harassing or stalking or abusing a particular person. Cyber crowding and virtual mobbing falls within this criteria. Can we also go to the next one, please? You also have theft of identity. You have financial frauds in relation to your bank accounts, your credit and debit cards. You have suspicious emails claiming that you will be the beneficiary of huge financial gains and windfalls. Like you have a Nigerian dictator dying and leaving behind huge wealth. He has no heirs, so the wealth is being distributed. Then you have disrupting of computer or digital devices through introduction of malware, worms and trojans. You have you also make the mistake content without verifying its authenticity. There is breach and violation of privacy and confidentiality. There is voyeurism, and like I said earlier, there is revenge pornography. Can we go to the next one, please? You have blackmailing, you have threatening, you have bullying, you have cheating, you have sexual harassment, you have sharing of pornography or obscene content, you have hacking of email content, and you have hacking of email IDs and passwords. Can we go forward, please? Now, what does cyber stalking actually means? Cyber stalking means following someone stealthily or openly. Electronic equivalent of stalking is unwelcome attention being given by a person who can be known or unknown on the internet and social media. That person has access and views your photos and contents and chats posted online, may or may not react to it, may download content from status messages posted online, may keep it for personal use, may post it on other forum, may post it on the dark web, may post it on the deep dark web. You have cyber stalking in the form of sending messages or emails to the persons being stalked. Now here, I may again pause for a little bit and share an interesting incident. I did not know this, but there is something called posting a social message or a status message and status photos on WhatsApp. So I had this situation where people are connected because of work relationships on WhatsApp. A gentleman stole the status photograph of a lady. The lady was in non-formal attire and used it as his display picture. So when you're posting photographs and you think nobody can steal things from your WhatsApp timeline, it is not so. For people who know how to do it, they can steal your content. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, what is you use a victim's photographs and morph it? You actually transfer it onto the bodies of new figures to make the public at large believe that the victim is posting such content herself. These morph pictures are available or posted on various pornographic websites, dark web and deep dark web. The victim gets calls or messages from strangers seeking sexual favors for free or for a price. The victim gets abused on social media by people who think the photo is posted by her. Can we go further, please? Now, there's also something called revenge pornography, which I spoke about earlier. It's called breakup pornography. It is used by a partner in a relationship after the relationship fails, has broken up, or the relationship has broken up, posting intimate chats, messages, photographs, and content online. Revenge pornography can also be used by a junior or a senior at workplace to settle workplace issues. Revenge pornography can be used if a request for relationship is rejected and the rejected person feels slighted. Can we please go further? Now, what is cyber defamation? Posting content defamatory of a person on the internet and social media This can be with reference to family, friends, employment, social status, marital status. This includes character assassination, is called as cyber defamation. Can we go to the next one? Now, morphing I have already dealt with, so we can go ahead to the next slide. Now, what is email spoofing? An email which represents its origin is a spoof, which misrepresents its origin is a spoofed email. It is forging email, a forged email, so that it looks like it is sent by, for example, Citibank, when Citibank actually has not sent you that mail. Now, this is the next slide is something which people are maybe getting very familiar with. So can we please go to the next slide? Now, there's something called cyber grooming, which happens to young boys and young girls below the age of 18. And since we are talking about abuse against women, I'm including girls in this category. Cyber grooming is something which the children or the victim thinks is very harmless, and the victim gets trapped in a web out of which the victim finds it very difficult to come out. Cyber grooming is when someone, usually an adult, befriends girls, boys are also vulnerable, and women, and builds an emotional connection with future intentions of sexual manipulation, sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, or trafficking. Groomers may also build a relationship with the intended victim's family or friends to make them seem trustworthy or authoritative. They can ask the victims for sexually explicit images of themselves or mutually sharing images. They can develop a rapport with the victims through compliments, discussing shared interests, or liking their online posts, or being a sympathetic listener who later on goes on to give solutions. I think recently, in the recent past, there have been a lot of public discussions and newspaper articles on cyber grooming and how the police in the UK have been proactive in trying to crack this group of cyber groomers. Now, the grooming also is a slow, intentional, methodical. Can we have the next slide, please? It is a slow, intentional, methodical process of manipulating a person to a point where they can be victimized. Can we please go ahead? Grooming behavior. Now, what is grooming behavior? Grooming behavior can include giving gifts or special attention. You can flatter a person. You can give money. You can meet other basic needs. You hold out promises of a better life. You hold out promises of a loving relationship, either to the victim, the parents, carers. You make them feel special. You make them feel indebted to the perpetrator. So you develop a confidence. The perpetrator seeks to develop a confidence building measure in himself. You also stimulate close physical contacts like hugs and embraces. So you give a virtual hug, you give a virtual embrace to create a feeling of warmth, oneness. The perpetrator falsely identifies himself as one of the victim's peers. Grooming behavior can be behavior where parents can be incited against the children and vice versa. Threats and coercion are used. There is exchange of sexual pictures and sexual content. The perpetrator draws the victim into a sexual relationship and maintains that relationship in secrecy. Shrouding of the relationship behind a curtain is an essential feature of grooming. So please, when you see changes in behavior in your family members, do not think that it is only because of mood swings. It can also be because the person is a victim of of cyberbullying, cyber trolling, cyber grooming. So try and develop an open relationship with your family members so that they can come and discuss with you if something like this happens to them. Now, what are the 6 stages of cyber grooming? Can we go to the next slide? Targeting a victim, gaining trust and information, filling a need, isolating the victim, then the perpetrator begins the abuse, and then the perpetrator starts maintaining control. Now, what is internet voyeurism? Internet voyeurism, when you give people unlimited access to the content you post online on media. It can take place when you accept requests from unknown people to give them access to your device camera in real time. You allow people access to personal photographs, videos, etc. You allow people access to time spent with your partner. You go live, you record your romantic moments with your partner, you live stream it, you're asking for trouble. Online voyeurism is when someone is keeping a track of all your online activities. Uh, does somebody need to ask a question at this point of time? Okay, I presume there are no questions. Can we go to the next slide? Now, how does cyberbullying differ from face-to-face bullying? Cyberbullying can occur at any time of the day or night. It can happen, it is not confined to work, school, or social hours. A larger audience can be involved, even unwittingly, with cyberbullying. Evidence is easier to secure with cyberbullying because you can take screenshots, download images, share website addresses to help with investigations. Bullies can ideally hide their identity more easily on the internet. They don't see their victims' reaction when they bully them online, or even if they see the reaction, they really don't care, because that's the whole idea of cyberbullying, to bully somebody. And the next slide, please. Can we please go to the next slide? And please tell me if we are running out of time, so I can just shorten this part down. The laws in India in the context of cyberbullying and cyber crimes against women are the Indian Penal Code, the Indecent Representation of Women Act, the Information Technology Act, the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, and the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act of 2013. And then you have the Prajwala letter, which is where the Supreme Court is seized of the matter, and hopefully guidelines will come down. Now, there was a very interesting, for people in India, there was an interesting the Information Technology Act, which was later on down as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. First case of cyber stalking reported in India was that of Ritu Kohli. The victim complained to the police against a person who was using her identity. So now this is a case of stealing an identity to chat over the internet. She further complained that the perpetrator was also giving away her address online and using obscene languages. Her contact leading to frequent calls at odd hours. Consequently, the IP address was traced and police investigated the entire matter and ultimately arrested the offender, Manish Kathuria. Now, the police had registered the case under Section 509, which I'll take to you to later, of the IPC for outraging the modesty of the woman. But IPC Section 509 only refers to word, gesture, or act intended to insult the modesty of a woman. And when the same things are done on the internet, there is no mention about it in the said section. None of the conditions mentioned in the section covered cyber stalking, and therefore Ritu Kohli's case was an alarm to the government of India to make specific laws cyber stalking, and then 66A was incorporated into the Information Technology Act. Unfortunately, that's no longer on the statute books, so that one layer of protection which is available to women has gone off. Now you have the Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act. Let's please go to the next slide. More specific references to sections 2, 3, 4, and 7 of the Act. Can we go to the next slide, please? The next slides give you detail what the provisions under the Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act are all about. Can we please jump straight away to the 43rd slide? What constitutes obscenity has been laid down in two judgments of the Honorable Supreme Court. One is in the case of Ajay Goswami versus the Union of India, and the second one where the sale of obscene books, etc. is concerned, in the case of Avik Sarkar and another versus State of West Bengal. Let's go to the next slide, please. Now, there's a very interesting case of Khushbu S versus Kaniya Mal, which is a 2010 Supreme Court judgment where the actress Khushbu had given her views on premarital sex and she was severely trolled for that. Several complaints were lodged against us, and the Supreme Court had upheld the contentions which were raised by Khushbu. Since these are available online, I'm not taking you through the analysis of it. Section 499 deals with defamation of women on any online platform, on any electronic media. We can jump down straight away to the slide number 53. Section 507, which is criminal intimidation by an anonymous communication. What does it constitute? What is the punishment for it? Section 509, which is the word, gesture, or act intended to insult the modesty of a woman. And now we come down to the provisions of the Information Technology Act of 2000. So to the query, is the law in India sufficient to protect the interests of women? When you look at the provisions of law, the provisions are sufficient. Enforcement and implementation, that is lacking and which needs to be tightened. Now, Section 66A was a good section. Unfortunately, done the Supreme Court. Section 66C of the Information Technology Act deals with punishment for identity theft. Section 66E deals with punishment for violation of privacy. Section 67 deals with punishment for publishing or transmitting obscene material in an electronic form. Section 67A deals with punishment for publishing or transmitting of material containing sexually explicit act, etc. in an electronic form. And now we come to the law in the United Kingdom. I'm not looking at Scotland, Ireland, etc., because there are various permutations and combinations. But if you look at the law in the United Kingdom, please go to the next slide. You may not have something which is the equivalent of Information Technology Act, which is there in India, but you have laws as far back as 1959. You have the Obscene Publications Act, the Obscene Publications Act of 64, the Health and Safety at Work Act, Protection from Harassment Act, the Public Order Act, the Malicious Communications Act, Computer Misuse Act, Communication Act, again of 2003, Section of Act of 2006, and the Serious Crime Act of 2015. Now, the Obscene Publications Act deals with one. What are the relevant provisions? That is Section 1, which deals with the test of obscenity, and Section 2, which deals with prohibition of publication of obscene manner. Now, what does the Obscene Publication Act of 59 actually do? If we go to the next slide, this act makes it an offense to publish an obscene article. An obscene article, how does it define an obscene article? An obscene article is defined as one whose effect is to deprave and corrupt persons likely to read, see, or hear the matter contained. Publishing includes circulating, showing, playing, or projecting, or transmitting the data. Makes it an offense to publish an obscene article. It is classed as one whose act is to deprave and corrupt persons, etc., etc. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, this is the subsequent act called the Publications Act of 1964, where obscene articles intended for publication for gain are described, and negatives, etc., for production of those obscene articles are set out. Then the equivalent of sexual harassment at workplace, which is there in India, you have the Health and Safety Work Act, etc., of 1974. Now, if you see, how does this act? It is a responsibility of the employer to secure safety and welfare of persons at the workplace. All employers have a duty of care to provide employees with a safe working environment. If the employee is a victim of cyberbullying at work through the use of company's computer equipment and infrastructure, company email ID, the employer may be in breach of the duty to protect employees under this act. Can we please go to the next slide, please? The Protection from Harassment Act of 1997 lays down what is the punishment provided for harassment under this particular act. Then you have the Public Order Act of 1986. where it is an offense to use threatening, abusive or insulting words, behavior. Can we go to the next slide, please? It's an offense to use threatening, abusive or insulting words, behavior or visual representations likely to cause harassment, alarm or distress within the hearing or sight of a person. With regards to cyberbullying, this offense could apply where the camera or video functionality, now found on the mass majority of mobile phones, is used as a way of causing such alarm or distress. Then you have the Malicious Communications Act of 1988, where the offense of sending letters, now this can also be electronic mails, is with an intent to cause distress or anxiety. Then you have the Computer Misuse Act of 1990. So you actually see in UK, you have a vast array of acts under which cyberbullying action can be taken against cyberbullies.
I want to ask, just stop you there, the previous slide about the malicious letter. Yeah, Malicious Communication Act 1988. So sending letters. So if the letter is sent to the family, the husband, and the children, and CC to several other offices, yeah, and talking about bad about the woman, what can be done in that case? Malicious Communication Act 1988. So I have been going through all these kinds of cyberbullying, which is about a letter being sent, children being sent messages through fake IDs, and also husband's office being contacted, and sometimes not directly but through a third person, sending mails with all kinds of things, and also using the website, website to write an article. In a website, you can just write a blog. Anybody can write a blog, and writing a blog talking about the woman as having had a warning, and sharing and resharing, sharing and resharing that article to thousands and thousands of people. So will all that comprise under Malicious Communication Act 1988?
I would take refuge under the word etc. after offense of sending letters, etc. So in my opinion, even posting content on an online blog or posting content on social media is ultimately the intent is to cause distress or anxiety. So that is something a clever lawyer or a lawyer who has honed his or her craft can make use of. Unfortunately, the time was very short. But yes, the offense of sending letters, etc., can be a reason for Malicious Communications Act of 1988.
Thank you.
See, in the path breaker, and this because always a path breaker in such situations. So maybe if one of you, one of the persons who's bullied or one of the affected persons takes this forward, you may have a law laying down, how the provision is to be interpreted. Because if you see all this, these are enactments which came in much before social media and electronic media have exploded to the extent. So the law will have to be expanded accordingly in an expansive form. Enactments. Like I said, the law is always there for protection. It is implementing and enforce that is causing a. Sometimes you can use a combination of various acts. So something posted in public domain, something sent as a malicious communication, some video posted without your content. You can go under laws of defamation. It can be civil action where you sue for damages. It can be criminal action also. So if you really want to teach the person, you can't just sit down perhaps with one particular course of action or legal remedy. You may have to pursue multiple remedies. Can we go down to slide number 70 now, the Computer Misuse Act. Just a slide previous to this. Unauthorized access to computer material, that is anything that includes hacking your hacking into your online accounts, unauthorized access with intent to commit or facilitate commission of further offenses, unauthorized acts causing or risking creating risk of serious damage that includes introducing worms, malware, making, supplying or obtaining articles for use in offenses under the previous sections. And then can we go to the next slide, please? If in the course of cyberbullying, a person hacks into the victim's online accounts of personal computer, they may be committing an offense under this Act of Computer Misuses. Then you have the next act, which is the Protection from Harassment Act of 1997. You have prohibition of harassment, you have the offense of harassment, you have the offense of stalking, you have putting people in fear of violence. Putting people in fear of violence is basically putting the victim in fear of violence. The stalking involves the fear of violence or serious alarm or distress. Now look at the Communications Act of 2003. Now again, this will answer your question, ma'am. Section 127 of this act makes it a criminal offense to send via any electronic communication network a message or other matter that is deemed grossly offensive or of an indecent, obscene or menacing character. So you have your remedy under the Communications Act, section 127(2). You have the Sexual Offences Act of 2003, where you are causing a person to engage in sexual activity without consent, meeting a child, following sexual grooming, etc., become offenses under this act. And then you have fraud. Fraud by false representation. You're holding yourself out to be somebody you are not. Fraud by failing to disclose information. Fraud by abuse of position. These are the basic general concepts and ideas and law relating to women and cyberbullying and cyber abuse of women. This is an extremely vast topic. End of my presentation. If there are any queries, I'll be happy to answer them.
That was very insightful, Advocate Nandini. I am definitely sure that all of us have learned a lot. And there's so many things which we didn't know. We didn't know where to go, how to go about it. And also, as peace-loving people, we just want to just block and move out and away. That's the most easy thing for us to do, is just block. But the perpetrator is in the habit of coming in, stalking through fake profiles, unless or until you keep your post private or for friends only. Otherwise, if your posts are public, you're always stalked. And there are few things which I have observed since last 6 years after being continuously harassed and cyberbullied. Is one, these are the characteristics of a cyberbully which I have observed. One, fake ID. So the person doesn't come across as as somebody who everybody can see, but the fake ID is the best way to bully a person. Second, that the person also, the bully also makes sure that the victim is not there to defend. She's not there to speak for herself, she is not there visible on that platform. And third, I think the cyberbully derives some kind of a sadistic pleasure by venting it out on social media, something which goes in to the person's mind, and the person just puts it out on social media, and by the means of likes and well done and oh my god, what happened, oh really, those comments may be giving a sadistic pleasure and giving a sense of satisfaction to the person. And the fourth characteristic which I have noticed it, that a cyber bully herself or himself has gone through lots of hatred or sad life, that she or he comes out in various forms on social media. Social media is that platform where all kinds of things can be written, and a person can become popular and may understand that, oh my god, I've got so many friends, I've got so many followers, it's such a nice beautiful world, and feel better about it. So that's my take on a characteristic of a cyberbully. Advocate Nandini, I am very, very thankful and grateful on behalf of inspiring Indian women that this is for the first time that we have come across such a session, that the law in India as well as UK has been dealt in such a explained in such a good manner, in a vast manner, and we are very, very thankful and grateful to you. And if anybody has any question, please come forward. We would be very grateful to answer your question, because we all know that it is not an easy thing to experience crime as such, where the person is not in front of you but behind the keyboard.
That's why the term keyboard warrior.
Keyboard warrior, yeah. For everything and anything, just go on social media and shoot it out.
Yeah, not only that, law has given you freedom of expression, so you think you have a right to express on anybody and everybody, regardless of whether the other person gets hurt or not.
And believe me, everybody today is a journalist, Social media means a media.
Started there, because then we can chat like maybe for hours together on this. This will never end. So everybody has an opinion, yes, but earlier people would love to keep their opinions to themselves. They were very circumspect on with whom they shared their opinions. But now with the keyboard on, and everybody wants to be very visible on social media because they think it earns them popularity. That is why I think you see a lot of this trolling and bullying and hate stuff, and perhaps where the sexual harassment of women is concerned, a lot of repressed sexuality or sexual desires are being expressed through this sexual harassment in cyberspace. It's unfortunate, but it's there. It's part of the new world we are all living in. And like I said, you need to be careful and you need to protect yourself and you need to secure your accounts.
Definitely.
What starts and ends with you.
I want to request Deepika here. Deepika has a very lovely video.
Yes, yes.
So could you please play that video for everybody? I know
Sure,
the
sure.
program has gone beyond 2 hours, but nevertheless, we don't regret any bit of it, any moment of it. It was wonderful, insightful, informative session. Deepika, go for the video, please.
Sure.
While she's doing, I'd like to thank the Mumbai chapter for this wonderful program, Inspiring Indian Women Mumbai chapter.
Can you, hello?
Yeah.
Is it started?
Can't hear it. No, it hasn't. I can just see a gray screen in front of me. Hasn't started yet. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Grishma Wali to connect us all to Advocate Nandini. Thank you, Grishma. Thank you to Sangeeta Chatlani for helping us out and taking this IIW Mumbai chapter to a greater height with such informative, insightful programs. If you can't, now? No, it hasn't started. Never mind.
I can. Now started?
Actually, I don't know. I can't see anything on my screen. Anybody else can see anything?
No.
Okay. So I think it's not going on. Deepika, no worries. The video was about, what the person, a cyberbully, gains. Nothing. Goes on and on and on, and then finally nothing. So that is all about cyber abuse. Thank you so much, Nandini, Govind, Menon, advocate. Thank you for giving your valuable time. Everyone else, thank you so much for being part of Inspiring Indian Women. Do log on to our page as well as our website and on our group for various sessions happening every day on Inspiring Indian Women platform. Take care, everybody. Goodbye and have a nice weekday from tomorrow.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Darshini, for taking this initiative, leading this webinar. Thank you, Darshini Joshi. Goodbye.